Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roshna Roshan, your webinar coordinator from Center of Excellence of Watershed Management. Welcome to today's session on carbon credits in agriculture, unraveling the enigma. Before we begin, I kindly request that you refrain from interrupting during the session and mute your microphones. Please feel free to ask questions only in the chat box, which will be addressed at the end. I request Dr. Nagaraja sir now to welcome the speaker and the participants. Over to you, sir, please.
Thank you, Rachna. We are fortunate to have Dr. Ashok K. Patra, an accomplished Emeritus scientist and the former director of Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. He is the speaker of today's webinar on carbon credits in agriculture, Unraveling Enigma. None other than Dr. Ashok K. Patra can be an apt speaker on this topic. Respected sir, I, on behalf of the University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, Center of Excellence and Watershed Management, World Bank supported reward program, and the Watershed Development Department, Government of Karnataka, I wholeheartedly welcome you for delivering a highly distinguished and enlightening talk on carbon credits, sir. On this occasion, it is my pleasant duty to heartily welcome all the enthusiastic participants attending the webinar. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, the Commissioner and the senior level officers of the Watershed Development Department, and the officers of the state and central governments, the scientists of farm universities and the ICAR Institute across the country, and the students. I once again welcome every one of you for this webinar. Over to Rochana.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the insightful welcome address. Next, I would like to invite Dr. N.D. Prakash, our Special Officer, Center of Excellence Watershed Management, to introduce today's webinar speaker. Over to you, sir, please.
It's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Ashok K. Patra. Dr. Patra ji is an Emeritus scientist and former director of ICAR-Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal. Born on 7th of September 1960 in Araldihi, Bankura, West Bengal. Dr. Patra's education journey took him from his hometown to esteemed institutions like Banaras Indian University for his graduation. And he obtained both the MSc and PhD from IRI in the discipline Soil Science and Agricultural Chemistry. So throughout his illustrious career, Dr. Patra has held various prestigious positions, which includes scientist, senior scientist, principal scientists at renowned research institutions. Notably, he served as director of ICAR, Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal, from 2014 to 2022, or long many years. Dr. Patra's research expertise spans critical areas, which includes nitrogen transformations, sustainable soil management, soil ecology, climate change, and carbon sequestration. So he is mainly covering the topic of his major choice on carbon sequestration in today's webinar. His groundbreaking research work has earned him numerous accolades, which includes a prestigious one, mainly as UNFAO Glinka World Soil Prize, and Rafi Ahmad Kidwai Award, and the Platinum Jubilee Commemoration Award, and a profile author. Dr. Patra has published over 450 works, including 20 books and 172 research articles. And he is also a fellow of several national academies and professional societies, so which namely the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, National Academy of Sciences India, West Bengal Academy of Sciences and Technology, and Indian Society of Soil Science, Range Management Society of India. So apart from this, so his contribution to the Indian Society of Soil Science is immense, and he also served as vice president and president of the chapter. So, which is showing his incredible contribution to the scientific community. So, I request all of you to join in welcoming Dr. Ashok K. Patra, a true pioneer in the field of soil science, and kind enough to agree to deliver the webinar on the topic carbon credits in agriculture, unraveling the enigma. So, thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and to deliver this topic. So, on behalf of Center of Excellence Watershed at the US Bangalore, so I wholeheartedly welcome you once again and request you to deliver the talk, sir.
Thank you for an inspiring introduction, Prakash sir. Dr. Ashok K. Patra sir will now present on carbon credits in agriculture, unraveling the enigma. Dear participants, please feel free to ask questions in the chat box, which will be addressed at the end of the session. Over to you, Dr. Ashok sir, please.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to each of you. This is indeed an opportunity for me. I also, on my behalf, from the Indian Institute of Soil Science, welcome each of you who joined online today in this afternoon. And it is indeed an opportunity to welcome also to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. S.B. Suresa, and also the expert from World Bank team, particularly Dr. Ramesh Shah, Ms. Priti Kumar, whose task team lead Reward, then the government of Karnataka Watershed Development Department team comprising of Mr. Mahesh B. Sirur, and all the senior officials who have joined in this program, and Department of Land Resources, Government of India. So the topic of my presentation is carbon credit in agriculture, unraveling the enigma. So this is a subject which is a huge subject, and as we all know, the carbon volumes of books have been written, and the knowledge is unlimited. I will share some of my experience work conducted by me as well as at this institute and many other institutions, as well as the at the different parts of the world. As we all know, there are many challenges the global is facing, and excessive land degradations, climate change, declining biodiversity, the major challenges the world is facing today. And that leading to declining soil organic carbon, multi-nutrient deficiencies, poor nutrient use efficiency, negative soil nutrient balance. So these are many other effects because of the major global issues. And the main and the focus is the center, the key is the soil carbon. Soil carbon is important for many reasons, and we all know. And you can see here, it governs many functions, soil functions. It regulates the global carbon cycle, they regulate the climate change, soil fertility, ecosystem services. And it is the largest, soil is the largest terrestrial carbon reservoir, holding more than 3 times the amount of carbon in vegetation and the amount found in the atmosphere. As per the estimations of Professor Ratan Lal, 1 meter depth of soil contained 1500 billion tons of carbon, and the atmosphere 800 billion tons, plants, herbs and all 620 billion tons, and if it takes 3 meter depth, it is more than 3000 billion tons. So the enormous carbon in the soil is reserved, but because of the many reasons, overuse, misuse, after during the industrialization time, a lot of carbon has emitted from the soil to the atmosphere, and it has been estimated at about 135 billion tons or so carbon has gone to the atmosphere. And currently the atmosphere carbon dioxide concentration is around 417 ppm or so, And these emitted carbon from the soil, about 130 billion tons, if it can be brought back to the soil, that will reduce about 65 to 70 ppm of carbon dioxide, and that will solve many problems of today's climate change. So soil is the source and sink of carbon, and the management of this carbon is extremely important, and having the potential of mitigating the climate change. So that is why, soil is the solution to climate change. And because of this, the soil carbon and many other ways, the greenhouse gas emitted to the atmosphere and in fact, they caused a great damage to the environment, the climate, and it is a serious global issues, because the global temperature have increased from over 1.2 degree centigrades, and this is increasing. If it is not, managed, stopped, this will be increasing and create a lot of problems. So these are some of the the observations. Earth temperature has risen by average of 0.11 degree Fahrenheit or 0.06 Celsius per decade since 1850, or about 2 degree Fahrenheit in total. The rate of warming since 1982 is more than 3 times as fast, and that is 0.36 degree Fahrenheit or 0.2 degrees centigrade per decade. So 2023 was the warmest year since global records began in 1850 by a wide margin. It was 2.12 degree Fahrenheit above the 20th century average, that is 13.9 degrees centigrade, and it was 1.35 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial average 1850 to 1900. The 10 warmest years in the historical records have all occurred in the past decade, to 2014 to 2023. So you can imagine the rapid increase in global temperatures. And because of that, several issues, the problems, all are very much, everyone is very much aware. It has got the print media, social media, and many media. It had drawn the attention, and it is known to everyone. So to find out the solutions, this is one, that linking carbon credits to climate change. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, carbon credit programs have the potential to significantly reduce global emissions, with estimates showing that carbon markets could contribute to a reduction of 2.1 to 4 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. And the carbon credits, also known as carbon allowances, work like permission slips for emissions. When a company buys a carbon credit, usually from the government, they gain permission to generate 1 ton of carbon dioxide emission. And the historical perspective, the chronological journey of carbon credits development, and it started from 1992, and that is, the establishment of the United Nations Framework Conventions on Climate Change, UNFCCC, that marked the pivotal moment in addressing global climate change. It has provided the framework for international cooperation on climate issues and laid the groundwater for future climate agreements and carbon credit systems. Then in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol came, and which was adopted, establishing the first international carbon credit system. It introduced legally binding commitments for developed countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that created mechanisms such as emissions trading and the Clean Development Mechanism, CDM, allowing for the generation and trading of carbon credits. The Kyoto Protocol in 2005 came into force, allowing countries to begin trading carbon credits. This marked the operationalization of carbon markets, enabling countries and companies to buy and sell emissions allowances, thereby incentivizing reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. The Paris Agreement in 2015, which is very, very important, this agreement was adopted, representing a significant evolution in global climate policy. It aimed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees centigrade, and that introduced nationally determined contributions, NDCs, which emphasized voluntary commitments and the role of carbon markets in achieving climate goals. And subsequently, a lot of the developments taken place. For example, in 2023, the carbon credit markets continue to expand with increased participation from different sectors, private sector, and the introduction of various voluntary carbon credit standards. Then, just about the Kyoto Protocol, which was, in 1997, and the Kyoto Protocol, that is international treaty, was adopted in December 1997, that aimed to reduce the emission of gases that contribute to the global warming. And in force since 2005, the protocol called the reducing the emission of 6 greenhouse gases in 37 countries, plus the European Union, to 5.2% below 1990 level during the commitment period 2008 to 12. This Kyoto Protocol is based on the principles and provisions of the convention and follows its annex-based structure. It only binds this Kyoto Protocol. It was for the developed countries and places a heavier burden on them under the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities, because it recognizes that they are largely responsible for the current high levels of greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere. Under this protocol, countries must meet their targets primarily through national measures. However, the protocol also offers them an additional means to meet their targets by way of 3 market-based mechanisms. In Doha, Qatar, on 8 December 2012, the Doha amendments to the Kyoto Protocol was adopted for second commitment period starting from 2013 and lasting until 2020. So 3 different mechanisms were placed by Kyoto Protocols. During the first commitment period, 37 industrialized countries and economies in transitions, the community committed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to an average of 5% against 1990 levels. That was the 1990 levels, and that they have to reduce by 5%. During the second commitment period, these parties committed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 18% below 1990 levels in the 8-year period from 2013 to 2020. And there were different parties, as per the Kyoto Protocols, the list of the different countries, they are, the Annexures B, were the parties with binding targets in the second period, which was set from 2013 to 20. Then the parties B in the map, it has been, in this global map, these have been depicted by different colors. The party B, Annex B parties with binding targets in the first period, but not the second. They're not for the second period. Then the non-Annex B parties, which are, not the developed countries, they are the developing countries, the parties without binding, there was no binding for, the emissions, but it was all, encouraged for the restriction of the emissions. The Annex B parties with binding targets in the first period, but which withdraw from the protocol. And then the signatories to the protocol that have not ratified There are countries you can see from the color, and then the other UN member states and that observes that are not party to the protocol. So there were countries which not participated in these protocols. So these are the three mechanisms from the Kyoto protocols: the international emission trading, joint implementations, and then the clear development mechanisms. These mechanisms ideally encourage greenhouse gas emissions abatement to start where it is most cost effective. For example, in the developing world, it does not matter where emissions are reduced as long as they are removed from the atmospheres. So, the international emission trading, that says that the emission trading as set out in Article 17 of the Kyoto Protocol allows countries that have emissions unit to spare. Emissions permitted them but not used to sell these excess capacities to countries that are over their targets. Thus, the new commodity was created in the form of emission reductions or removals. Since carbon dioxide is the principal greenhouse gas, people speak simply of trading in carbon. Carbon is now, the tracked and traded like any other commodity. This is known as the carbon market. Then, the joint implementation. These mechanisms known as joint implementation defined in Article 6 of the Kyoto Protocol allows a country with an emission reduction or limitation commitment under the Kyoto Protocol Annex B party to earn emission reduction units from an emission reduction or emission removal projects in another B parties. These are all developed countries, is equivalent to 1 ton of carbon dioxide, which can be counted towards meeting its Kyoto target. These joint implementations offer parties a flexible and cost-efficient means of fulfilling a part of their Kyoto commitments, while the host party benefits from foreign investment and technology transfer. Now, the third mechanism, the clean development mechanisms. These mechanisms allows a country with an emission reduction or emission limitation commitment under the Kyoto Protocol, the Annex B party, to implement an emission reduction project in developing countries. This is, in the developing countries. So developed countries in collaborations with, the developing countries. Such projects can earn sellable certified emission reduction credits, each equivalent to 1 ton of carbon dioxide, which can be counted towards meeting Kyoto targets. A CDM project activity might involve, for example, a rural electrifications project using solar panels, which is now in India, there is in large scale implementations of solar energy, rooftop solar energy, harvesting of the solar energy, and which is green energy, and another like the efficient energy, efficient boilers. So the mechanism stimulates sustainable development and emission reductions while giving industrialized countries some flexibility in how they meet their emission reduction or limitation targets. So now coming to the Paris Agreement, which is another, the very, very important achievement in these directions. And this agreement, you see the Kyoto Protocols and the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement introduced several key distinctions from the Kyoto Protocol, and which in this, it includes universal participation. Unlike Kyoto, which imposed binding targets only on developed countries, Annex B, the Paris Agreement requires all countries, developed and developing, to set voluntary climate goals, nationally determined contribution or NDCs, non-binding targets, while the Kyoto Protocol had legally binding emissions reduction targets. The Paris Agreement relies on voluntary commitments, with countries encouraged to enhance their NDCs over time. Then, the long-term goal, the global goals. In the Paris Agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees centigrade with efforts to keep it below 1.5 degrees centigrade, a more ambitious target than Kyoto's focus on short-term emission reductions. Then, in the Paris Agreement, the bottom-up approach, the Paris Agreement adopts a bottom-up approach, allowing countries to set their own climate targets as opposed to Kyoto's top-down intentionally imposed obligations. And no distinction between Annex B and non-Annex B countries in the Paris Agreement does not differentiate between the developed and not developing nations as strictly in the Kyoto Protocol, and that emphasizing collective responsibility while recognizing differentiated capabilities. And then there is in the Paris Agreement enhanced transparency. Paris Agreement introduces stronger mechanisms for monitoring, reporting, and verifications, MRV, which is very, very important when we talk about the carbon credits. So this was particularly in the Paris Agreement. And then the climate finance, that is also, while Kyoto had limited financial mechanisms, the Paris Agreement emphasizes climate finance with developed countries and, for example, pledging 100 billion US dollars annually to support the mitigation and adaptations in developing nations. Thus, the Paris Agreement fosters a more inclusive, flexible, and long-term approach to tackling the climate change compared to the Kyoto Protocol. And the Paris Agreement set the net zero emissions and climate resilience by 2050. Of course, our country, our Honorable Prime Minister, the net zero emissions has been set by 2070. So this slide just showing, which countries are meeting their Paris Agreement goals. And you can see here the different countries, the targets are there given by each country, their targets and the achievement, what they have made. And these are for example, Saudi Arabia, more than 4 degrees centigrade, and they have achieved it. Indonesia, more than 4, they have achieved 3 degrees. India set more than 4, achieved 2 degrees centigrade. So these are the different countries. They set their reduction goals and projected achievements by 2030 by associated limit on global warming. So, and this is the mechanisms of trading. So the NDC target and this the transfer the ITMOs, that is your internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, that is the credits. So now how the carbon market works. So there are 2 types of carbon markets. Compliance markets are regulated, that is a regulated market. They are used by companies and governments to obtain and surrender emissions permits, allowances, or offsets in order to meet or comply with predetermined regulatory targets. They are regulated by regional, national, or international carbon reduction regimes. And these are the A 6.2 and 6.4 are both compliance markets as per the Paris agreements. And then voluntary markets are unregulated market. They function outside compliance markets and enable companies and individuals to trade carbon credits on a voluntary basis. The credits generated by these markets are not allowed to fulfill compliance market demand unless they are explicitly accepted into compliance regimes. Unregulated voluntary carbon markets exist because of companies making voluntary net zero and carbon neutrality claims, often for PR purposes. So A6 does not apply directly to voluntary markets, but it is very likely to influence them. So the core carbon principle here in these slides, the core carbon principles are 10 fundamental science-based principles for identifying high quality carbon credits that create real verifiable climate impact. So that you can see the 10 principles the core carbon principles, governance, that is effective governance, tracking, transparency, and a robust independent third-party validations and verifications. Then, the emission impact. Additionally, the permanence, the robust quantification of emission reductions and removals, and then no double counting, and then sustainable development benefits and safeguards and contribution to net zero transitions. So this is, the carbon offset projects can be grouped into two different categories, and that is avoidance and reduction projects. One is, just to avoid those activities which will increase the emissions, and then, the sequestration projects, removal and the carbon removal from the atmosphere, and the sequestration in the soil or in the trees, so reforestation, and then the carbon direct carbon capture. So these are, the core carbon principles. Then what types of environmental projects are found in voluntary carbon markets? Voluntary carbon markets can make a difference through various mechanisms. Avoidance reduction. Example of carbon credit types: avoided nature of losses limits the loss of nature, such as forest and peatlands, which currently sequester large amounts of carbon. So additional emissions avoidance reductions reduces emission from the current sources which do not have the financial incentive or regulatory requirements to decarbonize. So example for avoided nature losses, for example, avoiding deforestation means protecting large areas of land from logging, other destructive activities. The carbon dioxide that has been stored and sequestered by biomass on this land is therefore not released to the atmosphere. So this is avoidance and reductions. And then another thing is the removal and sequestration. Example of carbon credit types in this: nature-based sequestrations uses nature to sequester more carbon in the biosphere, including reforestation and restoring soil, mangrove, seagrass, and peatlands. And this technology-based removal remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere with the help of modern technology and stores it in the geosphere or through other secure methods. Examples for technology-based removal: bioenergy with carbon capture and storages. So like old trees are harvested from the forest at a rate. Grown trees are burned to generate electricity, and carbon dioxide is stored in the below ground. Forest keeps absorbing carbon dioxide through new growth, and other trees becomes old, and these things continue. So carbon dioxide sequestered by forest, carbon dioxide stored in the geological storage, carbon dioxide sequestered by the forest, and so this is, this cycling in manner it continues. So the task force recommends that all project types need financial support in order to meet the carbon budget associated with 1.5 degrees centigrade warming. So reduction of this temperature to limit the increase of the global temperatures need, the funds. In the longer term, flows will have to shift towards removals, including technology-based removal with highly permanent storage, while a significant amount of avoided nature loss projects will still be required. So overall size of the carbon offset markets, this is just quickly, the market size, for example, in 2020, it was 0.4 billion, 2030, 20 to 25 billions, and 2040, 40 to 115 billions, and 2050, 90 to 480 billion. So you can see the market, the growth of the voluntary carbon market values. And this is an examples of voluntary carbon markets credit issues and the credits required. So over the period of times, how the voluntary carbon markets is increasing, and those credits which are used, those are retail credits. So there are several carbon offset programs, and these are some of the carbon offset programs by different organizations, and you can see the market volume which is ranging from 746 million carbon credits, 70% share. So see like that. So different organizations, the name of carbon credit issued, project, the locations of the projects, and what are the sectors they are and covering. And the examples of the projects that are investable in the voluntarily carbon markets include, and say for the blue carbon refers to the carbon stored in the above and below ground biomass and sediments of coastal and marine environments. The carbon capture and storage. The carbon capture and storage is key technology for supporting the energy transitions and achieving a net zero future. And then agriculture, forestry, and other land use, boosting carbon sequestration through FOLU is an effective approach to reducing and removing the carbon emissions, and then the energy transitions. Whereas BCS program, including robust science-based emission quantification methodologies for accelerating the energy transitions and the decarbonizations of hard to abate sectors. So these are, the afforestation, reforestation, and rejuvenations, agricultural land use management, improved forest management, reduction emissions from deforestation and degradation, avoid conversion of grassland and shrublands, watershed restoration and conservations. So these are different, areas where the different projects can be effectively implemented towards the carbon credits goals. With respect to the agriculture, which the main focus in this particular talk, the agricultural land management refers to the strategic planning and implementation of practices aimed at optimizing the use of land for agricultural purposes while ensuring the environmental sustainability. And see, the strategic land use optimizes agricultural practices, enhances the productivity, conserves resources, mitigates climate change, and it supports the biodiversity. So the sustainable agricultural land management, it gives many different benefits, whether the effective land use, productivity, resource conservations, and the mitigation of the climate change, and of course the biodiversity, which is a global at the current global challenge the world is facing. So this is showing the conventional versus sustainable practices. These are the different practices: intensive tillage and clean cultivation, and the improved sustainable practices, the conservation tillage, no tillage, drastically reduced tillage. So like that, different conventional practices, and the improved sustainable practices, which can give many advantages, as well as the main purpose of enhancing the carbon sequestration, capturing carbon in the biomass in the soil, and from here the carbon credits can be calculated, and that can be used. The sustainable agricultural land management practices, these are the sustainable land management practices. Many things are known: the agronomy, the crop cover, crop rotations and intercropping with nitrogen fixing crops, improved fallow rotations, organic fertilizations. We very much all are aware about this, the compost, animal. So different organic fertilizations in the agricultural practices, minimum soil disturbance, which is very important, and a lot of work has been done. It has been quantified, and how the overall improvement is taking place, that is all documented. Then water management, very important, whether for the productivity enhancement, for the soil health management, for the energy saving. So many, of course, the climate change aspect also, it has got a lot of impact. And then agroforestry, tree-based ecosystems having enormous opportunities. Trees on cropland, bush and tree fellows, live barriers. So these are very much sustainable agricultural land management practices which should be adopted. Like this, the agri-horticulture, agri-silviculture, LA farming, silvi-pasture systems. So these having the carbon farming, integrated farming systems with integrated nutrient and pest management, having sustainability and income security, and the climate proofing. So these different systems, tree-based systems, is very essential when we talk about the carbon buildup of the soil and the carbon credits and carbon trading ultimately. So these different tree-based ecosystems to be adopted and for the the major goal of carbon fixation, carbon sequestration, and ultimately the carbon trading purpose. So this is showing the annual mitigation potential of sustainable land management practices in different climatic regions, and these are different potentials. The cool, dry climatic condition, the cool, moisture, warm, dry, and warm moistures, and all these different mitigation mitigation potential of the land management practices, different regions. These you can very well see, even the water management and efficient water management having tremendous impact with respect to mitigations of the carbon dioxide emissions. These has to be adopted. This is the effect of NPK. This is an example from the long-term fertilizer experiments, which having different centers in India. More than 20 centers are there, and being from this Indian Institute of Soil Science hosting these projects, and very well documented, and wealth of data is there, and from there it is very much clearly concluded that whenever there is a organic resources, organic manure is given with the chemical fertilizers, there is a sustainability of the productivity. There is the nutrient buildup, the carbon sequestrations, as well as the other different physicochemical and biological properties of the soil. And this is another things, relative emissions of methane, nitrous oxide, and global warming potentials of the different the management practices. Zero tillage, direct seeded in either crop in a system, rice and wheat. The zero tillage direct seeding in both the crops in a system, rice wheat cropping system. Then moderately LMF is the moderately loamy fine soil and medium loam. So you can see here the system, whether when it is the zero tillage having the best benefits in terms of the emissions of the greenhouse gases. And again, you can see the no tillage carbon emissions. No tillage is the minimum, the carbon dioxide emissions. Very clearly, it has been observed, and also it has been documented. And so also the energy footprint when we talk. So the carbon stock, higher carbon stock in the minimum or zero disturbed soil ecosystems. Another aspect of different management is the inclusion of biochar for the carbon sequestrations, and it is also thoroughly studied, and it has been proved that that if the biochar is added, it has got long-lasting effect for enhancing the carbon in the soils, and this is well documented throughout the world and also in India. But thing is that such technologies need to be reached to the fields. There are certain issues if those things are taken care of. So this is another important areas where a lot of opportunities are there. and see the in the country there are the crop residues, surplus crop residues are there. A lot of crop residues being burnt every year in northern India, Punjab, Haryana, even Madhya Pradesh, and as we travel to the village sites, the countrysides, we particularly after the crop harvest, after the rice as well as after the wheat crop, lot of the burning events, crop residue burning events are visible very much, and that creates a lot of problems to the environment and also to the soil. And a lot of the informations on this aspect also available. So that has to be stopped. That is and those crop residues to be effectively, efficiently recycled for the supplying the plant nutrients and capturing the carbon in the soils. So this is a very, very important. A lot of the interventions being made, and the its adaptations is extremely important. And these are the carbon credit diverse land management practices across. So through modeling, this has been worked out at this Institute of Soil Science, and you can see very different how the different treatments, how the treatments creating the carbon credits over the period of the time. And they see how the soil type, rainfall and temperature is responsible, important for the carbon sequestrations and the leading to the carbon credits. So there the soil, as I was telling in the beginning, the soil is the source and sink of the carbon, and the soils of the globe having different capacities of carbon sequestrations, and these to be tapped, intervening the all different technologies, all different systems, adaptations, and all kind of the possible opportunities to be tapped and implemented, and it is very much possible for enhancing to tap this the potential carbon sequestrations. The another examples of the how what are the threshold, the estimating minimum crop residue threshold for the soil carbon benefits. This the slide is showing, and these are the different the planning strategies for carbon project in agriculture, and you can see these are the different strategies: define project objectives, identify stakeholders, assess resources, create timelines, and then structured approach importance. So this is the soil carbon credits, and there was the intersection of voluntary carbon markets and agriculture has become increasingly important to the face of global climate change, and the agriculture industry significantly contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, but there are many opportunities for implementing contributing, but there are many opportunities for implementing practices to reduce, avoid, or remove emissions from the sector. Soil carbon projects offer an affordable way to reduce emissions from the agriculture sector while providing a long-term source of income for farmers. Many farmers struggle to make ends meet from season to season and often work off farm jobs to supplement their income. And the carbon farming provides an opportunity to reward farmers for adopting more sustainable agricultural practices. For instance, farmers in the US can earn up to $30 per acre per year by participating in soil carbon projects, as stated on the website of US-based project developer Indigo app. There is a problem. So these are the challenges of the soil carbon credits. The viability of carbon farming as a value at for farmers is limited by several factors such as upfront cost of soil sampling and project registration, the opportunity cost of changing practices, potential near-term reduction in yields, and the market price of nature-based carbon credits. Then the complexity and differences between the various standards for soil carbon quantification presents another challenge for farmers due to potential variability in the quality of credits produced and thus the marketability of these credits. Another challenge, the permanence of storing carbon presents a challenge for the takeoff of soil carbon projects, as the length of carbon storage in soil varies based on the biological, chemical, and physical properties of the soil. The carbon market limits participation to farmers who have not yet adopted sustainable practices, excluding those already using methods like cover cropping. Furthermore, tens of thousands of acres are required to make credit feasible and cost effective. And the most common approach to addressing the issue of scale in generating credit is the aggregation of fields, which reduces the upfront financial burden of sampling each field. Project developers may follow an aggregation approach by sampling a subset of soil from different farms to determine baseline carbon stocks. They then use models to remeasurement to determine changes in carbon stocks under the project scenario. Then another aspect is measurement protocols. This is another very, very important and serious issue in soil carbon credits, often discussed about this matter. So these measurement protocol are critical in carbon credits projects as they establish the methods for quantifying carbon sequestration and emissions, reduces, ensuring that credits generated are creditable and verifiable. So there is a need of accurate data collection methods, establishing, so these are the different the measurement protocols. This is a very, very important aspect of the whole process. There are different methods, and most of you know about this. The waste chemistry, dye combustion, and then CHNS, the machines, which measures the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur. CHNS analyzer, we say. So, the accurate method should be accurate method, and then, the uniform method should be adopted, which is accurate, as well as the universally accepted, globally accepted methods to be used. This is very, very important. And in this category, the recent development is soil spectroscopy, which having tremendous potential for accurate measurement of soil organic carbon. Several institutions of different parts of the world done excellent work, and also this institute developed the soil spectroscopy techniques using mid-infrared spectroscopy, and observed that the very accurately the soil organic carbon can be measured. So the matter is the measurement, the sampling and measurement of soil organic carbon is very, very important. So the economically cheaper and easy to handle of the processes to be adopted for this purpose. So nowadays, this is based upon the information, the digital soil map of soil organic carbon can be made at different time and different places of the fields, and that will be very much useful in these directions. So these are some of the examples. These maps have been developed by this institute, and also the use of remote sensing methodologies are also becoming very much useful in these directions. So another very important is the the 4 per 100 initiatives, a solution for carbon sequestrations, and this is the overview of the 4 per 100,000 initiatives. This launched at COP21 in 2015 as part of the Paris Agreement. The initiative aims to increase soil organic carbon by 0.4 per year globally. The focus is on agriculture and forestry to significantly enhance carbon sequestration in soils. Why 4 per 1,000? This is 0.4% annual increase in soil carbon stocks that could offset up to 5.6 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions annually if it is done, if it is achieved. This approach directly addresses climate change by improving soil health, biodiversity, and agricultural resilience. And then how it works? It encourages sustainable practices like conservation tillage, which I discussed, agroforestry, crop rotations, and the use of organic fertilizers to boost soil carbon level. This provided a framework for government, NGOs, researchers, and farmers to collaborate on soil carbon enhancement. And then it has the global impact. If implemented worldwide, this initiative could help achieve net zero emissions, mitigate climate change, and enhance food security. So this captures the essence of the 4 per 1,000 initiative and its importance in mitigating climate change through agricultural practices, which focused on soil carbon sequestration. And this is the solutions in these directions. There are regulatory hurdles, so that for that solution engage policymakers as early as possible. Then market volatility is there, unpredictable market, so unpredictable carbon credit prices. And solutions is implement hedging strategies for the unpredictable carbon credit prices. And then the another social acceptance, community support is very much critical. And for that, education and involvement of the stakeholders very important. Then measurement challenges, as I was discussing, accurate carbon measurement needed, and the solution use advanced monitoring and the technologies. So this is case studies and success stories, examples of agricultural carbon projects. Just few examples: a successful Kenya's smallholder farmers, a successful project involving smallholders adopting agroforestry practices and sequestering 1.5 million tons of carbon dioxide since 2010. Australia's carbon farming initiative incentivizes farmers to adopt carbon sequestration practices, generating millions of credits annually. And the Brazil's Amazon soy moratorium reduces deforestation-linked carbon emissions by preserving native vegetations. And this is, with respect to India, draft framework for India's the first carbon market, India's initiative for carbon credits agriculture. So this is, the national action plan, national action plan on climate change, and this is focus on sustainable agriculture under the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, that is NMSA, to promote carbon sequestration through improved practices like agroforestry, conservation tillage, and organic farming. Then, the India's carbon trading platform, that is the introduction of India's voluntary carbon market to facilitate the trading of carbon credits, which includes the agricultural projects like soil carbon management and methane reduction in rice cultivation. And then Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchay Yojana, which focuses on improving water use efficiency. And then the water efficiency, as I was discussing, very important, and that promotes, that includes the promotion of micro irrigation techniques that reduce energy consumption, indirectly contributing to reduced carbon footprints. Then agroforestry promotion programs, that expansion of National Agroforestry Policy 2014 to integrate tree planting on farmlands, enhancing carbon sequestration while improving farm productivity, and sustainable rice cultivation initiatives. The programs encouraging farmers to adopt alternate wetting and drying. And then, this technique, particularly in paddy cultivations, that reduces the methane emission and generate carbon credits. And then collaboration with international bodies, partnership with, for example, this program is under the World Bank funded projects, and so also with other organizations like FAO on pilot projects for carbon credits generation in sectors like agroforestry and regenerative agriculture. So, India's active steps towards leveraging carbon credits through sustainable agriculture practices, aligning with the global climate goals. And the conclusions, the carbon credits mitigate climate change and enhance agricultural sustainability. Most of the things I discussed. So sustainable farming practice can sequester 1.2 to 2.6 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year, making agriculture a vital player in climate actions. Carbon markets provide new revenue streams for farmers with prices ranging from 5 to 100 per ton, fueling adoption of sustainable practices. Overcoming hurdles, M&B measurement and verification, the cost and smallholders access is very much crucial, and that requires the technological innovations and policy support. Strong partnership between governments, NGOs, industry, and farmers are essential to scale carbon credit projects and achieve climate goals. Achieving net zero emissions by 2050 will require large-scale adoptions of carbon sequestration in agriculture. If widely implemented, all these things, carbon sequestration in agriculture would reduce global emissions by 10 to 20%, contributing significantly to the 1.5 degrees centigrade target. So the future thrust should be in this direction. Promote widespread implementation of agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, and conservation tillage to enhance soil carbon storage globally. Invest in advanced technologies like remote sensing, artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc., to simplify and reduce the cost of carbon credit verification. Develop framework and support mechanisms, subsidies, cooperatives that enable smallholder farmers to participate in carbon markets. Implement clear, consistent policies that promote carbon credit programs in agriculture, supported by government incentives and international cooperations. Encourage collaboration between governments, industries, NGOs, and research institutions to drive innovation, fund projects, and expand global carbon markets. Focus on strategies that generate the permanence of carbon sequestration, preventing reversals like land use changes or deforestation. So with that, I am ending my presentations. And you can see here that Race to Zero, the world's largest coalition of non-state actors taking immediate actions to halve global emissions by 2030. So the global climate change is a very, very serious issue of the world facing today. And it is the responsibility of all stakeholders to take immediate actions so that the targets of 1.5 by 2030 should be achieved. It should not cross, to avoid severe disasters. So with this, I tried to share with some of the things, some of the, quite hurriedly. Perhaps it would have been taken a little more time, but keeping in view the time, I already crossed, the given time. So not more. With this, I am just ending it. Just thank you very much, Professor Prakash, Dr. N.B. Prakash, for inviting me, and many of you for patiently hearing my talk. I hope to certain extent it was clear, and perhaps some of the aspects were not very much, clear. But all these informations are available today. But main thing is that it is very important subject, and the knowledge is huge, and we have to capture it properly and implement it effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the valuable learning experience. The expertise and insights you shared today were truly the need of the hour, valuable and greatly appreciated. Thank you once again. Now, I request Dr. Sagar to facilitate question and answer session, addressing questions from the chat box. Please proceed, sir.
Good evening, sir. Sir, there are a few questions which needs your valuable inputs. One of such is how a farmer can start with the carbon credit, like whom to contact, or is there any agency for training?
Yes, as I was showing you, the government of India has taken initiatives, and Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Environment. So there is now the framework. The framework is taking shape and being implemented, and it is possible. The authority, the people working with the farmers, they can connect the farmers for getting these advantages.
Sir, what is the average pricing for carbon credit in India and world?
Oh, that so as I was showing you, it has a range, of range, the carbon credit prices. So it may varies. It may varies with the availability of the credits, like any other commodity. So it varies from 10 to 50 to 100 US dollars. So that is not very much fixed, that it should be up at this particular rate, depending upon the supply and demand. So all these things are taking in shape, and I hope it will be soon very clear and possible to adapt and trade with more in benefits.
One more, sir. Are there any specific rules or guidelines for carbon credit? Or, sir, can you please suggest some good references for reviewing?
Oh yeah. I can give you some references, some informations. You just give your email address to Dr. Prakash, and I will arrange to give you the references.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
There are some more questions are there, sir. There are many more questions, and many of them are asking the questions in the chat box as well as directly sending in terms of email. We compile all of these questions because it took a lot of time because of early problem with us. Maybe we'll be sharing all the questions to you very shortly. So it was an excellent talk from you, sir. Initially, we had some difficulty in allowing only 100 participants, though we have the permission for almost 1,000 participants. So I could able to see 292 participants joined this webinar, and I really thank each one of them. So there are some more announcements to be made from us also in this regard, because we are continuously organizing webinar series every month, one on each aspects of carbon, hydrology, and digital agriculture part. So this is the third in the series. I'm very happy that Dr. Ashok Patra has delivered the talk on carbon credit in the third series of the carbon credit. So next month we have one more webinar series exclusively on carbon. So keep visiting our website. We'll be indicating you or informing you very soon on the selected topic as well as the speaker. So kindly support us in this regard, participate in large number to enrich your knowledge, and also to work profusely for the benefit of humankind and the scientific community. Sir, yours was a very excellent topic. Thanks for delivering the talk once again. Roshana, you have some more announcements to be made.
Yes, sir. Finally, I would like to invite Dr. Virupaksha HS to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. First, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed resource person, Dr. A.K. Patra, Emeritus Scientist and former Director, ICAR-Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal, for his insightful and engaging presentation on this topic, carbon credits in agriculture, unraveling the enigma. His expertise and clear communication truly enhanced our understanding of this important subject. I would also like to thank University of Agricultural Sciences, Watershed Development Department and World Bank for their support and opportunities. Finally, I express my sincere gratitude to the participants for from diverse specializations who have joined us. Your participation and engagement made this event a success. We hope the session provided you with valuable insights and we look forward to welcoming you to our future events. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Virupaksha, and thank you everyone for your active participation in today's webinar. Before we conclude, I'd like to take a moment to preview our upcoming webinars. Next month's webinar will cover the final subtopic under Theme 1, Carbon Connect, focusing on soil organic carbon. This will conclude our exploration of Carbon Connect. Starting November, we will transition to Theme 2, which will be based on hydrology, which will comprise 4 engaging subtopics each month. We are excited to dive into this new area and explore its significance. We look forward to your continued participation. Thank you again. We will see you at our next webinar next month. Thank you.
Finally, thank you very much, sir. I know there are many questions which we need to allow people to ask you. Because of the shortage of time, we are not allowing anybody to ask you the questions in person. So kindly send us any questions in this regard. So we'll compile everything and then share it to you. So that Dr. Patra ji will be personally answering to each one of you, or else collectively answering to us, and then continue to share it with the participants in this regard. So thank you once again, sir. So it was an excellent talk. So on behalf of the Center of Excellence, once again thankful to you for delivering the talk. Thank you.
Thank you for nicely organizing the program, and of course, little bit problem in the beginning, but in the technological appliances, there is always some problem maybe, but it was excellently organized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone.